Good morning, everybody, and happy Thursday. Today's show is brought to you by Chuck Close, who says, "Inspiration is for amateurs. The rest of us just show up and get the work done." A very appropriate quote. Inspiration is for amateurs. The rest of us just show up and get the work done. So, today we're working on a few things. We've got Brent's logo. It's still on the board. We're going to be working on that today. We're also going to be working on Ron Fortier's project with Airship 27, and I have a very bizarre pose that I'm just going to sit here and just worry about. So, knowing that there's a pose involved in this, I'm going to go on ahead and I went on ahead and just pre-rendered it because I knew it was just going to be a mess. So I rendered it out in Daz Studio because I have a weird angle and I have a weird pose, and it was just rough. But first, we have to go to warm-ups. So those of you who are following me at home, you can join me now over at the other table. So head over to the main line. And I'm noticing my lights are still in their weird colors back there. That's very strange. Like my computer never got it straightened out. Computer, broadcast lights. Got one blue light up it. Sometimes my lights get stuck. So let's go ahead and transfer over to the main line, and we'll get working. Let's get cracking. Rawr, cracking. I'm a cracking. Rawr. Okay. Hey. I am noticing that the camera is starting to drift. I've got it taped up here onto my the bell of this light, but as time goes on, the tape starts to give out, and we get a weird, not quite distortion, but boy, we get a thing going. Alright. Yesterday, I found my blue pencil, which does blue line. If you really want to be super fancy, you can go get blue lead, and this is very similar to what comic artists will do, right? You can take this blue lead, and it's what we call non-photo blue, and it just draws blue lines. Isn't that cool? Look at that. It also does it very badly if you don't actually lay this down correctly. There we go. There we go. We're going to do that. All right. It's very overcast today. I don't know if you can see that from the lighting. Luckily my desk light's pretty solid, but it's kind of dim out here. It's kind of sad. Okay, so we got the blue line pencil going here. Do our long lines here. And that'll be what we need for that. And we'll take this guy. There we go. Make our little weird heart-shaped thing. There we go. Now with the blue line, you can see that it's very difficult to actually see the line, and it makes it more difficult to kind of see what we're dealing with here. But it's fine. I can see it just fine. So if you wanted to be super fancy, you can use a blue line pencil. I do sometimes for drawing, but I do it for a different reason. So I'm going to take my number 4 pencil here, or my number 4 fine liner. And again, I'm going to lift my elbow off the table. I'm going to try to also lift my hand. Finding it a little bit more difficult to see the line now that I've done it in blue line. So it might not be wise to use blue line. Right? So, going over here onto this side, again lifting my elbow off the table. Do 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 do. I got my music up too loud, but that's okay. We'll fix it in a second. There we go. Now we'll connect the dots. Now let's do the long roundy things. There we go. We'll date this. It is indeed the 22nd. There. And there we go, guys. That's that for the day. We'll head back over here. Oh, man. All right. I feel like I have the music turned up just a little too loud here. Like, I'm looking at the meters on here, and it looks like the music's much louder than it was before, and I'm not sure why that is. So let me turn it down a little. All right. We're going to prep this for drawing. There. Switch over to our logo. And then switch our camera. There we are. Okay, so yesterday we were working on a logo for Brent and his new endeavor. And we're going to work there on this one today. Now, he had already yesterday requested a number of colors and things like that. One of the things that I really want to do is first we got to fix a few little minor problems going on with this before we rasterize it. Like this fang should be a fang. Like that's like a thang except different. There we go. I also feel like it's just a little bit too thin. Alright, we've thinned it out just a little too much. Now we can't see it. There. That's much better. I can now see a lot more what's going on in here. I'm going to adjust the control points in here. And all we're doing here is just making sure that we need to simplify this. right? Because this is just way too complicated in there. This one's probably way too complicated as well, right? And all we're doing here is just, I mean, these need to be nice, gentle curves. They don't need to be complicated. And when they end up with 40,000 points in there, I know I've made it just a little too complicated. And like that, I don't even know what's going on there. So we're going to take the vector and just keep, really? Fine. Undo. Let's get back to black. Back to black. Right? Okay. That's not bad. There we go. Because what we'll need to do next is we can't fill in on the vector layer. We're going to have to rasterize. So in order to put a fill in, we're going to have to do rasterized work. So that means the difference between vector and raster, which this is getting very blurry, this particular thing. We can see all of these guys are definitely rasterized. Or vectorized, I'm sorry, vector. These are all vector, and I'm noticing even out here, like this needs to be simplified. Right? And these guys need to be simplified. I don't know why. It seems like they've gotten worse while I wasn't paying attention. There we go. But a vector like this means that you have a control point and a line and a control point. The computer sees this as an operable line. It can maneuver it, it can adjust it, and that's not you. And that's that's the way this works to make it work better, right? And instead of trying to figure out where this line exactly is, instead it knows the XY position of this, the XY position of this, the XY position of this, and then it has a Bezier, which is where it understands the bend, the angle of it, which is how I can get this kind of thing where the line goes way over and comes back, because it understands the Bezier of it. So when it's laying out these lines, it's putting these lines out, and that needs to be simplified too. I just dinked with you. When it's putting these lines out, it's rendering it in its head. The reason this is so useful is because you can adjust this at any time, and I can make it bigger. You remember how I've always said in here, I can make things smaller, but I can't make them bigger. The reason behind that is the reverse or the obverse, whatever we want to call that, of vector is raster. So its counterpoint is raster. Rasterized things that are rasterized, are literally, it understands the pixels, right? So if you look really close here, we can see that we have dots that get grayer. This is called anti-aliasing. But you can see that what it's really doing is it's laying down a bunch of dots. Those are the pixels, the individual pixels. When I set up this thing as a vector, it is just putting pixels around the outside of this line. But if I make this picture 17 times larger, it'll just make a thinner set of pixels. Because it's got more pixels. There's a denser amount of pixels here. If this was rasterized, it doesn't matter how much bigger I get. If I make this 700 times bigger, then we're just going to have a 50 pixel by 50 pixel wide light gray square. It'll be huge. It'll be a huge square. Because the squares get bigger instead of it understanding the line. So there's serious benefits to having a vector drawing like this. Because with a vector drawing, this guy needs to just go away. With a vector drawing, I can correct errors that are made inside the vector drawing like this. I'm just pulling these lines out, and I can correct those lines by actually going in here and fixing the Bezier and the curves and things like that, and just drawing this in. And with a vector, I can do all of these really cool tricks, but the problem is we can't fill, and that's an issue. Which means that we need to convert. Good morning, Luna. Like, I don't even have the option to use the fill bucket in here, inside this rasterized thing. So, Luna, we were just talking about vector versus raster. I'm not sure if you know the difference between vector and raster. I know it took me years to figure out the difference between vector and raster. But I was explaining the vector tools here. You see, that just looks like that's just a piece of random line that does not need to be here. So, Bezier is the kind of, so the information, when you have a vector line like this, the computer stores this dot's x and y position, this dot's x and y position, and this dot's x and y position. And it just keeps storing the x and y position of the dot. So when I move this, it just moves the x and y position of the dot. But it also stores a Bezier. The Bezier says how dramatic this curve is. And you can see there is a Bezier here, but there's none there. This becomes a 90-degree angle, but this seems to be a nice little gentle curve. So there's a Bezier curve put into each one of these circles. The circles indicate that it has a Bezier. The square indicates that it does not. So if I wanted, for example, these last two will always be very abrupt and square. But if I needed to make them roundish, I could add a Bezier to them, and then they start doing that. Good morning, Donald. So that's what Bezier is. And it's obviously a French word because there's an R in it, and we don't say Bezier, although I would totally say that, just because it's funny. And this is becoming a problem here because I really do want a curve on this whisker, right, coming off of here. I want a curve in there, but I can't get that curve because there's no Bezier. So I'm going to add one right here and do that. And that has given this a nice, gentle curve, and then I just minimize how much of this mess over here I'm going to have to deal with, right? And that still makes that look nice and even and very kind and gentle. Right? So, I'm going to make sure that these all connect so that I don't have to worry about fighting them later. There we go. Just like that. Look at all this mess in here. So that's what happens in this particular program when you do a bunch of little, like, it makes a whole bunch of goofy little things in there that are just rough to see. So, there we go. So, you were talking about Flash. Flash absolutely used vector artwork. And it did not use rasterized artwork. This needs to be simplified so much. There we go. When I hit simplify, it's taking out points from in here and making it simpler, which I like because it gives me more of a curve to everything. Right? If it's a bunch of things like this, then this line sits there and wiggles, kind of wiggles back and forth. So what I'm doing is I'm hitting simplify out here, and that's getting rid of all of those extra points. Now it's making it very straight, but I can also go back and add 1 point in, or 2 points. It makes it so much easier to deal with these guys. There we go, just like that. And you need to be pulled back. There. So, that's cleaning up a lot of this mess that's kind of around here. Like down here, we've got quite a bit of complication. I'm going to hit these lines with the simplify brush. Now I'm using the pen and tapping, and that's just giving me a little bit of, see, then I can bring that back around. Wonder if my car warranty is expired. Yep, that's probably who that is. Either that or who you voting for. I get a lot of those now. Make sure you're voting. Yeah, I'm voting. Don't worry. I'm probably more politically motivated than I probably should be, but I'm voting. Everybody I know is voting, so we're good. Although I do appreciate, seems like this year has had more of a campaign of people. Get my car warranty. I can remove some dots with the simplify. Like if I hit this with there as simplify, but once we get to a certain point, there really isn't. Now I can delete a control point by switching over here, and that will remove that control point, right? And I can add a control point and put that control point back in, which we want because we need this curve right through there, like that. So I can add or remove. His eyebrow is lost in the bone structure of his face. It really is, isn't it? Oh my goodness. Yeah, like here, this is an interesting, I don't know if I need to simplify, but I could. Right, and that just brings down the number of points. It's still a computer system, so it still has, like, this entire thing just needs to go away. That guy right there. Because he's not really useful. Because then I can pull this down like that. There, like that. So
when you talk about that, that's what this tool does. This connects the vector lines so that they're connected together, right? But they have to be logical and at a control point. Like, I just told these two lines to connect together, and it didn't. And these two lines didn't connect together. I feel like I want to simplify this line as well. Right? So now we've got this, so I can do something a little bit more angry-esque, because he's a dragon. Dragons are always mad. I don't know why. We were making jokes about why dragons were always mad yesterday. There we go. So now he's got more of a stern look, right? Right. So this program does not, in fact, make you connect the lines. That's one of the reasons why you can't fill using vector. The fill tool is specifically designed to find its way to the edge of a point. So when I fill here, the computer itself tries to run up to these points right here and decide how it merges these two colors together. But this is effectively a rasterized line. It's not a vector line. So the tool won't work here. And so what I need to do is make sure that the lines intersect each other, but they don't have to physically intersect. Like, these two don't physically intersect. But I can make them, when I fill this area, as long as these outside dots are all good. Ooh, I just added a line. I didn't mean to. As long as these outside dots are good and solid. The eye of the dragon, it's the thrill of the fight, or something about the eye of the dragon. I'm sure it's important. I am deleting control points. There we go. Give that a little bit of a boost there. And look at this. This is like weirdly back and forth. So one of the things that I have noticed that I do as an artist, and it's extraordinarily irritating, is to vector, switch to pen, is that I draw up and then draw back and forth like this, which in vector means that you have effectively this, which is a disaster. Right? So I have to learn to be extraordinarily concise about my vector lines. So that they don't do that. Because then I have to go back through and do so much cleanup work on my vector drawings. Mostly because I was so horribly inefficient before. Right here I'm really inefficient. I even have this entire line. It just needs to go away. This entire line right there just needs to die. Anyway, okay. Now, we have instructions. Yeah, I did. Eye of the Dragon, Cobra Kai. I like Cobra Kai a lot. That's one that they're doing a good job on, you know? I'm into second season now. stepping off the limb. And I really dig it. I think it's a clever show. I think it's very clever. I think it's cleverly done. And it really is exactly what you're looking for in a sort of, not a reboot fashion, but in the, revisiting a world. Because, to be honest, Karate Kid sort of got me into martial arts as a kid early on. And it is really amazingly accurate on what we want out of martial arts as a martial artist. And martial arts doesn't end because you're not in class. And it's, oh man, this is tough. All these little converging lines. What are you doing, you people? Oh man, I think I was trying to, I think that's probably better. Just leave it like that. There we go. There we go. I'm just cleaning up a lot of these lines that, it looked like I was doing such a good job yesterday, and then now I'm going back through and I'm like, ugh, what a mess. I feel like I could write an algorithm that understood, guide drawing or something, because like this is a mess. What's going on there? I don't even know. Right, there we go. Yeah, I feel like Karate Kid 2 and 3 were kind of a...
Well, Karate Kid 2, okay.
I gained a massive kid crush on Tamlin Tomita in Karate Kid 2. Which makes it extra cool that she's now part of the Star Trek universe, too, because I actually think she's nifty as a person and an actor, and it's nice to have her in the family, so to speak. That said, I feel like this needs to go over this line. Over this line. You need to go over this line. But I feel like we need another line right there. So let's first kill this right here, which opened that up. Second, we're going to take and put in a line right. And we got to do this right. Undo. Put in a line like that. There we go. And that's you can see we've gone from I'm not sure what's going on in this area to it's very clear. When we originally were talking about this particular logo, we were like, well, it is busy though, and it is difficult to see things. And I'm like, well, a lot of that's because we've got blobs of ink everywhere, so to speak, and they're not quite straightened out. Like I'm noticing like a problem down here where things are just wonked, right? And it's like the line's going over here. This is a different line completely. It's not even the line that needs to be in here, right? And so what's happening is that just looks rough, and it is. It's very rough. There we go. We have a separate line right here inside this line. And that's all that's just a piece of junk. It needs to just go away. And it's difficult because I know that this is complicated for machines to understand what are we trying to say here. Like this is obviously me tapping the pin down or something early. I'm not sure what's going on here. All right, we've got an extra line out there. Because we got all these little extra divots, which don't need to be in here. This line doesn't need to be in here. There's a bunch of stuff that's just a mess in here. All right, and so we're gonna take a look at the big picture. What's coming around this corner here? This is the fold in and underneath the... Wow, this is complicated. Look at this mess. An extra line here we don't even need. Right? I actually have been trying to do something very similar to that. Because I do too. I love that. I think that's so cool. Right? And you get to see aspects of the story where, you know, from a protagonist's point of view, it all makes logical sense that A happened and B happened and C happened. But then you watch it from somebody who wasn't even involved. Maybe they were just down the street or something like that, and you get a different angle suddenly, and you're like, huh, never thought of it that way. Which is why, in fact, I'm really digging Cobra Kai. I mean, so much of it was literally, well, and then, you know, the hero was a jerk, and we hated him, and he really was sucky. And that's what's so good about Cobra Kai in that instance is we're getting a lot of this stuff from Johnny's point of view. And Johnny was just like a poor hapless soul involved in this, you know. He wasn't trying to get involved. I mean, he was just trying to be a kid to get along doing his thing, and you know. And I love the scenes where Johnny is recounting what happened in the movie, and it's like, oh, and he was terrible, and he was so, you know, it's just so funny because you're like, I saw that movie, and that's not what happened, but I can kind of see how Johnny would have seen it that way. It's extraordinarily clever. I agree with you. It is extremely clever. I'm just moving these vector points around a little bit to give us, this is a nice clean arc now, right? Like this is still kind of messy. It doesn't quite line up out here like it should. Now it does. Make sure this merges in. Right? I think the best part about Cobra Kai is that we're going to see effectively a redemption arc in a different way. We're going to see it we're going to see that redemption arc in a very different way. And see Johnny get redeemed, but he's coming from a point that, I mean, I think all of us have been in. Everybody has been in that place where you thought you were the good guy in the story, and it turns out you were the bad guy in the story. Everybody's been there. Somebody had posted a meme on r/Star Trek memes, and the meme was Garrick and Bashir, and they were talking, and you know, of course, the person has edited what they were saying. It's that it's the famous. It is actually a wonderful scene between Garrick and Bashir in the show, and the meat. Wow, this is just all a mess in here. Look at this. I just need to pull all this out because it's really not important, and it's just complicating that. And Garrick says something to the, they've redone the words there, but Garrick says something to the effect of, "My dear doctor, everyone is a hero in their own story." And Dr. Bashir goes, "Even the villains?" And Garrick goes, "Especially the villains." And I love that because it is so true. But it's something to also think about for us. I mean, like, there are times where we are totally the villain in the story and we didn't know it. Nobody wants to be the villain. Nobody sits there and wrings their hands and says, "I'm going to be the villain today." This isn't what people do. They all think they're the heroes of the stories. And I kept that meme as a story writing concept because it's important, right? It's important to remember that the villains of my story are going to always think they're the heroes. And they have to be logically misunderstanding. It has to be, they can't just have woken up one morning and said, "I'm going to be the bad guy." That seems like a thing to do. And it has to be logical. It has to make sense. I think that's important for story writing. Very important for story writing. There we go. Right, Johnny's now a lovable bad guy. You can see how I've cleaned all of that up now, coming back through on this, and simplifying the vector lines out of this. Makes it a whole lot smoother because the vector lines come back around and become one unit, and then I can get their Bezier curves straightened out. There. And then they look really badass. That's what they look like. I'm just saying. There we go. Yep. It really is, and I think the best stories are when your bad guys aren't, I don't want to say aren't bad, but are understandable. I think that's actually something we kind of need in today's day and age, because I think a lot of us feel like if you understand, you condone, and that's, of course, a misnomer. There are a lot of things I understand. Especially as a storyteller, it's important to understand. I understand terrorism. I do not condone it. But at least I can understand the why. And it's one of those things that I often say, look, there's a reason why this occurred or that occurred or whatever, and if we solved the reason, it would be much better for us. And by the way, this takes a long time because I'm unfamiliar with this. This is a new process for me to do the vector. I literally have been a raster artist all of my life. And so, oh, by the way, here Luna is how you connect the lines. These two could be connected into one line now, and that could become one point. I was just saying that because you were like, do you have to connect the lines? You can only connect them if they're going the same direction. And so they have to be like on top of one another. If they're crossed like this, it won't connect. I'm kind of trying to figure out if it's doing this on purpose? Anyway, so, I mean, this is just inexperience in my part that's taking so long on this. This really shouldn't be taking this long. But I'm new to this, to vector. I'm new to using vector as a primary source of my artwork. And so, all of this takes a little longer than I expected. So this as I get better at this isn't going to take as much time. And this is another connect the vector line. I find it interesting that I am finding Discovery's Giorgio to be a lovable bad guy. I find that very interesting. I'm enjoying her development as a character as well. So that's interesting in a lot of different ways.
I was thinking about scales as well. However, I'm being aware that a lot of this is going to be here as far as seeing the logo. So scales would just make it look gray or look like it's got some kind of patterning to it that you can't identify. So I'm going without scales for the moment. I may go back and put scales in, I'm not sure. So that's something to think about. I haven't quite gotten there yet. I'm not sure if I want scales. I may not. I might. I don't know. Okay, we're going to do a real quick color test though. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this layer, right? And this duplicate I'm going to leave alone. And then this layer, I'm going to go on ahead and say rasterize, which is right here. And that turns this layer into there's no more points. It's now what it is. And the reason is because I want to test to see what my colors look like. Because I'm having a hard time now seeing where we are, right? So he wanted red for the body, right? So the body comes around and it's red. And I want to also see just how well I've sealed up this particular guy, right? How well has he been sealed up? And where are we on things, right? So there's that, and inside here, right? This is giving us a lot more of what we're looking for here. And he wants purple for, these are test colors, by the way. This isn't the actual color, but he wants purple for the fur. Oof, there's a leak there. We'll get in on that at some point here. We'll have to get on that. All right. Take a look at the purple here for the fur, for the little fuzzy fur things. Right. All we're doing here is just kind of getting an idea of where everything went. And then he wants yellow. That's going to go backwards and do it. Ooh, there's more red up here. Because this guy's going the other direction, and that guy's going this way, like that. We're going to have to fix all of that. There's 2 leaks in here somewhere. But I need that inner section to be... and go there. A little bit of... There we go. And copper is generally sort of a darkish yellow. He hasn't said anything about whether... Ooh, that's a leak. There's a big leak right there. I can see it. We'll go around the other side. All's good. There. So now what we're looking at is just what does this look like in color? Looks great. It actually looks really solid. Yeah, I've actually kind of pondered that idea myself. Should I punish my characters for, being jackasses and killing off everything because they're murder hobos and they just kill everything and they're notorious for it? Okay. Now, when we looked at the original, I'm going to seal that one right there too. We looked at the original on this. Oh, this goes. The original guy had a different color for his beard thingies, or whatever you want to call these. I'm going to go back like that, because that's a nose here. Go back up in here. Right? I've often thought about zorching my players for murder hoboing everything. Because they just go in and, okay, you see a goblin, I kill it. Okay, it's dead. You see another goblin, I kill it. Okay, it's dead. And it's like, well, that's fine, but how do you know for a fact that you're doing the right thing? Just out of curiosity, guys. Right? I mean, it's kind of like, well, do you know what you're doing in there? Because you might not. Alright. I've got kind of a purple going for this, but I'm going to try a lighter purple for up here and for this. Alright, and do the same thing here. Just go for a markedly lighter. And very colorful. Nothing else, so we can get our ideas of where things are. Right? I mean, like, where is everything? Oh, excuse me. The weather is changing, and I can tell. Right here. You're right. We need to close that loop. And go back through with the coin here. There we go. That's kind of cool. I'm digging it. We've got kind of this interesting wrap. Oh, that's a brilliant idea. Have the paladins do side quests for killing good goblins. That'd be fun. I'm chuckling because Luna is stuck in a game that I'm game mastering tonight. And so, totally anything bad could occur at this point in time. I'm very much entertained by this. Okay. There. Now let's do some shading. Now usually, I used to do shading with black, but now I'm starting to kind of get into this idea of purple for shading. Right? And just kind of go along this dark side here and then come around here underneath and under here. And I'll come back under and fix the fact that it's on top of this fur. Right here, and kind of come around like that. And we're just doing the rough on this. You may be going, what are you doing? You are so weird. But it actually makes some sense. You'll see in a sec. Watch me in 1 second, come in here and then do the thing, and you'd be like, that didn't make any sense. You still screwed it up. I'd be like, maybe I did. that, take that, and that. You're like, it's okay, because I'm not a hero, really. All right. Anti-paladins sound interesting to me. Like, their whole purpose in life is to be just enough of a pest to drive people crazy, right? I would play an anti-paladin. And I don't know if I would, really. I like to play the good guy. I am always the hero in my own story. And I hear Garrick's voice already. Especially the villains. Oh, my dear doctor. Especially the villains. I can understand that. And I can appreciate it too. One of the things I like about Star Trek Adventures as a system is there's no alignment. You are just who you are. And if that becomes somebody who's fuzzy on concepts, then, that's the way it goes. Well, yeah, and I absolutely agree with that too. I mean, Babylon 5 was really good for that particular aspect. It's always been sort of a gray area. Yay for dwarves, by the way. Gotta love those dwarves. I like how, in sort of Tolkien manner, dwarves are routinely tinkerers. And I think that makes for a much more interesting character design. Sort of a trope-esque thing, I know, but that makes it like Tindy was in Lower Decks.
It's time to take a quick break.
Oh, okay, we gotta take a quick break. I'm gonna finish this right here, and go over here, and then just through here before I forget, because I will. All right. Okay, everybody. It's break time. We're gonna stand up. Stretch, so everybody stand up. Alright, so you get moving, put the blood back in our feet, and stretch. There we go. Twist your hips. Ooh, things are popping. Go for a little walk. I'm going to go over here real quick. Be right back. I'm going to blow my nose because the weather has changed quite dramatically. And then we'll come back, go for a walk around the little place here. We walk over here, we look outside, and we say, wow, it rained last night. I find that somewhat weird. We're in late October and we're getting rain, but you know, hey, it is what it is. Rain's good for our fires. That's definitely a plus. So, and we come back over here and we sit down. No lower deck spoilers. It is. Okay, now we're back to work. We'll switch ourselves back over to the monitor. Work. And we'll get back into this work. So we're going to the only lower deck spoiler I will give you is that everybody dies in the end. That's actually a funny joke between me and my bestie. Although it's even funnier because apparently that was a joke inside their family. You know, if you ask them, well, what was the book about? Everybody dies in the end. And, oh, okay, well, what was the movie about? Everybody dies in the end. So you get to the point where you stop listening, you know, that doesn't make any, you know, it's, oh, okay, everybody dies in the end. Ha ha ha, you're funny. But one time, apparently, his brother gave him a book and everybody dies in the end. Oh, okay. And everybody really did die in the end. And he was like horrified. It's pretty funny. So, there's that. There's I'm just going through here and we're putting in shading because it looks nice and makes this really pop out a lot. Here, shading, shading over the deep blue sea. There we go. Now we've got, that looks a whole lot cleaner over there. So many jokes, so little time. Everybody dies in the end, but does everybody truly live? Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm giving the effect that this is bent over this section right here. And a little bit of highlight through this zone. And now we're back to work. I need to set that timer, I think, for a little bit less abrupt, or a little bit less time, here. There we go. So I want this to feel like it's coming out like that, coming towards us. So we need to kind of adjust accordingly where these shadows are. Right? And this is helping to delineate where pieces of this are. Right? Like under there. And just the tops of the rooster tails here. There we go. We're just giving some depth to this. That's what shadows are really all about, is giving depth. We're trying to delineate where things are, where they start. Right? The cats always get honorable mention in the show. George has co-hosted a Geek Tank episode now. Totally did. It's totally what he did. He was co-hosting. He got up here because Troy was late, and it was very funny, and so I was like, well, I got no Troy, so Troy was like, I'm on my way, but I need 5 minutes, and I'm like, well, show started. So George was already here. He got up on the table here, and he was co-hosting with me. What a good cat. He's too young to be cynical, so since he's a kitten, he's just not cynical yet. He'll get cynical, and as time goes on. But right now, boy, he's just into everything. He thinks this is all very cool and exciting. Always interesting things going on here. There we go. Put that underneath there. And this needs to fold down underneath here too. All of this is kind of going into the dumpster here. Kind of getting squished into that one spot. Cats are indeed natural gamers. And no disagreement there. And, and adopting a cat later is actually very honorable. We adopted an older cat for our first cat, but she seems to be very... I think she was feral for a while. Because her world is very small. And she likes it that way. She's not sure how to deal with George. George knows how to deal with her by playing with her a lot that she does not want. So does not want. Such is the nature of our household. It involves a lot of hissing and thumping and running around. How a little kitten can sound like a herd of elephants is beyond me. But he does. He just runs through hallways and you can hear him downstairs. He's up here somewhere. He's being completely noisy, and it's just a brutal thing. So there is that. He's a good cat, though. Wish he'd stop pestering Dove, but he's a good cat.
George is George. He does what George does. There we go.
Yeah.
I got a great shirt I just recently bought. It has a table with a cat's eyes just above it like this, and it's a drawing. And it says, "If you can see me, I have failed my stealth check." I love that shirt. It's my new gaming shirt. I say that to the +3 in Rogue. And I feel you, man, Donald. I totally feel you. We had no cats for a while here because we were moving and we hadn't gotten to a house and we hadn't settled in, things like that, so we couldn't have a cat. And so we didn't have cats for a while. And I realized one of the major jobs that the cats perform in my life is making it so that I don't get stunned or shocked by noises going on in the household. The house creaks or moans or whatever, and you know, if you're by yourself and the house is creaking and moaning all by its lonesome self, you're kind of like, is that somebody in the house? You know. But if you've got a cat here, you just go, it's the cat, even if the cat's asleep. And you're like, well, there we go. There we go.
Yes, that is one of the things that George has on his job to-do list, is to eat bugs.
He was hired with that mission briefing. I was on his mission. There we go. Alright, I mean, that was when he was hired on. He was told he'd be paid cat food if he ate bugs. It's on his to-do list.
All right, now we're looking at this, and it's looking a lot more dramatic. We'll do the other part of this too.
Whereas we gonna go in here real quick. Clean those off. There we go. Oh man, I'm gonna go in and fix it. As one might imagine, needs to be done. Because we're going back in for dental work on our dragon. I spend more time working on this dragon's teeth, I swear.
All right. Now we'll put in highlights. And we go the other direction. With highlights, we go warm. And that's just the nature of the beast. Right, so we this is when everybody says, I don't know, guy, I think you're not doing it right. Alright, I'm going to go through here and do this. There we go. Nope. It's always the one that I don't do right. Screen. There we go. Yep, they do attack indeed. This is a discussion George and I are having right now. I'll go to bed at night and he's like, oh good, the toes are here. And then I'll get randomly attacked. Such is the nature of that cat. And I keep saying, okay, now wait, this is not what you were hired for. You were hired for bugs and bug removal, potentially spider removal, and things like that. You are not, in fact, hired to attack toes. And we keep having to have this discussion, and I'm not sure why he's not getting it. I'm being very reasonable. Just saying. I have a personal vendetta against insects. And that's the thing. One of the things I'm having a problem with is I'll keep this door behind me open to let air through and everything like that. And I get earwigs in here during the summer, and it's extraordinarily irritating because I hate those things. There we go. Now we're going to go one layer up. Again, we're going to finish this off with white. True white for things like the eye, right? And right up here on the top of that nose. And little things like right through there or there. Just the barest highlights. This gives just a little bit of extra oomph
to certain pieces of this, right? And now we're talking. Right, now we're really talking. Okay. Something about this makes me feel like I want another layer or something further out in this logo. If not just one extra ring. I feel like that it needs one more ring. So I'm going to turn on the ring that was in there originally. I take it and I'm going to enlarge, because there's already a ring in here. I can get an idea of what I'm looking for. Right? I'm feeling like that's more what I'm looking for in here. I'm looking for something further along. Like that. There. Yeah, he wants it to be a logo for Discord, and I get that. But I still feel like there's something missing. And we'll put this on a completely different layer so that we won't have to worry about it if it's weird or strange. So we'll put out here something like a secondary ring. And I'm not sure what I'm looking for, so I'm just going to let this be its own little world for the moment, and then I'll figure out what I'm after. Because I may not actually be onto anything here, but I feel like something like that just looks better. There's something about putting an extra circle on there that gives it an extra oomph of some sort. So I'm going to take a look at this and use that as a vector layer. And we're just going to and then just simplify the heck out of this, because you know it's a mess. And then now we should have only a handful of control points. We'll connect the vector line together. Yay, you're married. Isn't that sweet? And like I said, I don't know what I'm headed for. But I actually kind of feel like we shouldn't have this many control points too. Right? We'll just head up to the top. Wahaha! Now we'll just move the control points. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'll add a control point in up here. And we'll get control right there. Man, it's difficult drawing a nice, happy circle, isn't it now? There we go. Evenly distributed-ish, give or take. And you're like, what are you doing? It probably is. So, like I said, I'm new to the vector thing, so it probably is, in fact, really easy to do. Yeah. You just ruined my perfect circle. However, I am still struggling on how to figure out how to do this in general. And it actually is aggravating me. There we go. They need to be evenly distributed. And they are, naturally. Anyway, so still new to probably. I'm sure that if I were out, well, I mean, like here, can I just make an ellipse and will it know it? Right? And does it have points? Yeah, it does. So, yeah, I could just make an ellipse. That would have been far, far easier, I'm sure. But I've done this now, and it's done. It's a done deal. It's done. It's like Bambi. It's done. I don't know why that's like Bambi. I don't know what that means. Duplicate layer, and we'll do the same thing here. We'll rasterize it. Let's go for... So, a lot of my colors are reds, yellows, and browns. So reds, yellows, and browns. So the offset color would be on this side of the wheel, right? So if we fill that with that color, excuse me, if we fill that with that color, it actually makes it pop quite a bit. Bring this up even more, do that, and yes, I'll get the fangs and everything like that. That's not a problem. In fact, we'll just fetch that right now. So, sort of offsetting the majority of the colors in there and coming up with that. So, that feels not quite like what I was after. So, I'm going to have to see what Brent thinks. Maybe very, very light blue. You know what I think we might want to do is a gradient. Let's take a little bit of a look here at what our gradients could be. Right? Can we do something like, undo, I'm on the wrong layer. Right in here. Right? Or this way. Maybe this way. Right? Then we just select everything around it, go down here and hit delete. You think so? A lighter line around, well, I mean, we don't even have to have that, the wheel. Right? In cat news, it's funny because it's true, right? Like off your foot? Well, that's a thing. And I think you're right. I think if we were just to take and go down the line here, I wonder if there's a way to do. How do I do just a basic stroke here? Outline selection. Draw a line. Okay. Kind of looks cool, actually. Okay, so I'm feeling pretty solid about this to some degree. I feel like what we've got going on here is interesting and unique, and a reverse background. Well, I think he does want to make a logo out of it, so I'm going to let him decide what he wants to do with the around. So I don't want to go outside this circular border very much, just enough to be artistic, like right here. Like right here and right here. That's artistically popping out of the border just a little or something, and I don't know. Kind of feeling like... I'm feeling kind of like this might be done-ish. I think I want Brent to take a look at it. So Brent, if you're watching this on replay, we're now at, yes, we're now at saving, so no accidents. Tell me what you think, and you can just PM me and when you're ready and everything like that, and we'll take a look at it. We'll look at it together. So, oh, you see the reversed backgrounds in iPhones? You know, I don't actually have... I mean, I have an iPhone, but it's not hooked up to anything. I use it as an MP3 player. And I don't even really... I don't even really use it as an MP3 player. It's one of those things. I have one, and I was going to put it, like, here or something to be a side monitor so I can see what's going on. And just plug it in and permanently it lives right here. So one of the problems that I've got right now is I look here to see what the monitor says, and then I have to look here to see what you're saying, and then look back here, and then look back here. And it'd be nice if I had just a little teeny monitor right here where I could look there and see what people are saying, and that'd be kind of cool. So I think it's solid. I'm feeling like it's very solid. So there's that. I'm feeling like we are at a solid stopping point. So definitely took... Yeah, see, now would be a bad time to bring up claws. Yesterday we were looking at it and we decided he didn't have claws, and that was okay. But now that we've colored him, we may come up with a different idea. We may decide he needs claws. So there's that. We'll have to see what happens. So we'll have to figure that out, I think. Okay, guys. So today I'm going to stop a little early because I'm going to go. I've got to check in on what my kid's doing for school, and he is out of school at 11:45. So I want to make sure I'm there to wrap up everything with him today, because we're trying to get him back on. He kind of fell off the wagon a little here, and he's been having problems with the remote learning section. So I was going to start Elio 6 on this one for Silver Pentacle, but I think that I'm going to have to go on ahead. I don't want to start it and work for 4 minutes.
He did mention claws yesterday, but then he also said that he felt like it was okay without claws. So, if he wants claws, we can put the claws in. That's certainly not going to be an issue. In fact, we could probably... But I felt like the way that Chinese dragons are, they're long snakes with claws and feet. So they're like really, really long. And so I thought, the way this works, we'd end up with claws kind of... It's like... Because he's wrapped all around this, so... So we'll have to see. We'll have to see whether he thinks claws are a thing he needs or not. And they may not be. And he may need claws. And if he does, if you're listening to this, Brent, if you need claws, let's put them in. Because let's make this right. We don't want to, oh, well, we'll accept it. No. Let's not just take it like, maybe it's okay enough. Let's do this. So, I feel like it looks great, but I could also see claws. I just don't know where I'd put them. So we'd have to go back to a sketching side for that, which is okay. We can do that. Okay, Brent and Luna, I will see both of you tonight at the game. Donald, I will see you tomorrow. I do think that at the moment, what the current battle plan is to have Pepper here tomorrow on the show, and we're going to do watercolors together tomorrow. We're going to try the watercolor thing with the 4 cameras set up and rigged. I'm not sure it'll work, but we'll give it the old college try. So I'm going to try a different tack tomorrow. I'm going to try to see if I can't get a Google Meet going and then call in with my phone, which will allow you to see what's going on over there, and then have him call in on 2 different devices so you can see his face and his painting. So that's my current plan. We'll see what happens. I love it when people sing too. I'd love to go to karaoke with you someday, Donald. Let's hope that COVID, when it finally lets up and all this COVID crap goes away, we can go karaoke together. How about that? I'll challenge you to singing Yamato with me, and we'll see what happens. So I hope. Oh, you mean Pepper? Yeah, Pepper, go to sleep tonight. You could be on this show tomorrow. Pepper. He gave me such beautiful paints, though. They're so pretty. I don't even want to mess them up because they're so smooth and perfect in the little bin. And these little bins are just. And he made it's perfect. I don't want to mess with it. So, virtual karaoke. I've been trying to do that with the Bad Hands, and it's hard. It's really hard. The only real way to do virtual karaoke is if your machine controls the songs. So that's the only real way to do it. So, I don't know. We'll have to see. Okay, guys. Keep your eyes on the stars, and I will see you tomorrow with Pepper. Bye-bye.